Hi, this is Kevin Baumer, CML Deputy Director, and welcome to the CML Video Statehouse Report for Friday, April 6th. It was a very busy week in both chambers this week. The Senate finished up the budget, and that now goes to back to the Joint Budget Committee that will act as a conference committee to work out the differences between the bills. You'll hear a little bit more about transportation funding as it relates to the budget, and separately, we did have a couple of things that occurred during the budget amendment process that we think will stay in the reconciled budget when the Joint Budget Committee is done. One is some funding for a peace officers' mental health program. This is tied to legislation that CML supported along with the Fraternal Order of Police last year, House Bill 17-1215. The grant program was created, but no money was put into it. We were successful in working with the FOP to see $2 million set aside for that program should it stay in the final budget, and we hope that it will. It has bipartisan support in both chambers, so we expect that to stay in. We're certainly asking for it. Also some budget items related to affordable housing, funding of digital trunked radio systems, but for the most part, all the budget amendments that did get on will be stripped off in the reconciliation process. On my issues, marijuana, it continues to be a hot topic again this session. We did see Senate Bill 211, which was the the Marijuana Consumption Clubs bill, defeated in committee. Talked about that last week. The Marijuana Accessory Consumption Establishments, House Bill 1258, continues to move forward. That passed the House Appropriations Committee this morning, and they began debate on it on second reading. It was not finished, though, and they laid it over. We'll continue second reading debate on that next week. House Bill 1259, which relates to allowing manufacturers and cultivators to sample products instead of having to send them to the retail store and buy back to test for quality control purposes and product development. That bill was amended. We were opposed to it unless it had a local government opt-in. We worked out a little different arrangement that will limit the amount of sampling to a certain number of managers and severely restrict the sample size. So with that amendment, we're neutral on House Bill 1259. And last, the marijuana delivery pilot project, House Bill 1292, has been assigned to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Will be heard on April 11th. The League's neutral on the bill, not because we don't have concerns about how delivery might occur outside of the secure retail environment, but rather we just don't think any municipalities are going to do it. It's a pilot project that would expire in a couple of years. On severance tax, we have a very significant piece of legislation that will be heard on Monday, April 9th. And unfortunately, we don't expect it to survive because of some debate we think is going to occur more around the tax and credits and increasing the effective tax rate on oil and gas companies. Really not even an issue that should be in this bill because it's something that the state won't be able to do even if it wanted to, as we're bumping up against our state tabor limit. What the bill would do is in times of when the state would exceed its tabor limit, would de-bruce severance tax revenue, would allow that revenue to flow to local governments and the Department of Natural Resources where it's supposed to be going, and also free up an equivalent amount of revenue in the general fund to fund programs like transportation, K-12, higher education, things that we think everyone thinks are important. Unfortunately, again, that's a conversation that's going to get diluted about how we tax oil and gas in the state, and we expect it at this point to die in a party line vote, although stranger things have happened. We might see something else. And last but not least, I just want to talk about Public Employees Retirement Association, PARA, reform legislation. It affects 27 CML member municipalities and obviously a whole lot of state entities and schools, but because it's an important piece of legislation and for those 27 members, we've been working on it diligently through the session. I'm pleased to announce that we've secured agreement on an amendment in the House that would ensure that the members in the local government division, which is much better funded than the other divisions, if passed as is, we'll see an amendment that says there will be no additional employee or an employer contribution, which is really important. We'll still fully fund, see the local government division fully funded in 20 years. So it's a great development. We're hoping that will stick.
Hi, this is Megan Dollar with the Colorado Municipal League. I do want to piggyback a little bit on what Kevin talked about with regard to the budget. Affordable housing did see an increase in the budget, particularly on the Senate side. Originally, when the JBC submitted the budget, there was an $8.6 million line item for the Division of Housing's grants and loans line item, which CML has supported the increase for several years over. In the Senate, an amendment passed to actually add an additional $5 million. So the the past budget from the Senate actually has about $13.6 million for affordable housing grants and loans, which is terrific. That budget will obviously go to the conference committee, and the JBC will likely take that up. Our hope is that at least $1 million of that additional funding does remain. Another issue we are tracking in the budget has to do with our recently introduced legislation, which is House Bill 1353. This is CML's initiated legislation to fund House Bill 1309, which requires defense counsel at first appearance in municipal courts. The JBC did set aside $2 million for that piece of legislation, and I'm happy to say that that $2 million did stay in the budget, and I believe it will be. Certainly we'll be working, or I'll be working very diligently to make sure that that legislation passes so we can implement that new program. While we're on the subject of criminal justice, there are two other bills that I quickly want to give updates on. The first one is House Bill 1020, which is the grant program and additional follow-up legislation from House Bill 1313 having to do with civil asset forfeiture reform. CML supports House Bill 1020 as it has a lot of compromise language in it, and particularly a grant program that will hopefully allow law enforcement to seek resources to better support their communities. Another bill that CML is following this week is House Bill 1089. That has to do with monetary bail and bond reform for misdemeanors, petty offenses, and municipal ordinance violations. CML is opposed to that legislation. It did pass the House this week. However, it's now been introduced in the Senate, and it was sent to the Senate State Affairs Committee, which is often considered the, quote, kill committee. So we do have confidence that hopefully we can defeat that legislation. At the same time, though, knowing that this is a really important issue and we'll certainly be willing to work on it in the future, and are looking forward to bring the expertise of our municipal judges to do that.
Hi, this is Morgan Cullen with CML, and I'd like to talk with you a bit about transportation. It's going to be a big issue for CML and for the state, transportation funding in general, as we move closer to the end of legislative session on May 10th. The two big bills that are going to be the vehicles for transportation going forward are House Bill 1340. That has a provision in there that would provide $495 million for transportation in fiscal year 18 and 19. That bill actually passed the Senate this week, but it removed a key provision that would have provided local sharebacks to municipalities across the state. That bill now goes back over to the House for concurrence on the Senate amendment, but I believe that bill is going to be parked over in the House for a while until another bill, Senate Bill 1, is considered. That bill passed the Senate unanimously after a strike below amendment that did a number of different things, but the bill's over in the House now and it's before the Transportation Committee. Senate Bill 1 has just been introduced into the House and it was assigned to the House Transportation Committee, but it's yet to be calendared. However, there's a lot of ongoing discussions about the bill. The key provisions there are it provides an initial $500 million to transportation funding for fiscal year 18 and 19, and then an additional $250 million thereafter. It also delays a proposed ballot referred measure on bonding until 2019 to leave room for a citizen initiative in 2018 to consider new revenue and bonding for transportation going forward. The big issue with Senate Bill 1 right now will ultimately be how that $500 million is allocated. We would like to see it, a local shareback match, and we will be working towards those ends. And it's just going to be very interesting to see where all of this goes.
So that's it for this week. As of Monday, April 9th, there are 30 days left in the legislative session. Things will start moving even faster and more furious. If you have any questions, please reach out, connect with us. Also, you can check out the links on the Statehouse Report here for bills that we're following, positions that we have, position papers, and any other items of interest. Thanks.